Hi, I'm Justin.
Also, I hate the way my voice sounds, so if you can do whatever Photoshop does to voices, make me sound awesome.
And this is my lovely friend,
The beauty in the eyes of the beholder, and it's just about getting into the seat of being the beholder.
Hayley.
I don't think you have to be particularly perceptive. I just think you have to look up.
This podcast is mostly just her telling me stories.
If you expose yourself to the possibility that this might be really awkward, there can be something just really cool on the other side of it.
She thinks that her life and way of looking at things are
Oh, I was kind of waiting on you. I thought you were getting your stuff ready. You're waiting on me?
pretty normal.
You got to edit out all the misinformation about the Amish.
Maybe you can relate.
I would like a chance to re-sing the Amish Paradise.
If you want lighthearted stories
All right, you want to talk about goats?
and stream of consciousness,
I just woke up and needed some friends, and so I bought them.
then you're gonna like the Sunny Side Up podcast.
Sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up.
So, if you're at all like me, you may feel that you're living in a world that can be a bit overwhelming and confusing at times. I'm also a huge fan of podcasts, documentaries, docudramas, stories, and of just information in general. Between all of that and the social media and news, sometimes our brains can feel like they're on overload. Hayley and I hope that this podcast can be something of an antidote to all of that. Like little jello shots of joy and distraction. None of it is too serious or really too informative. Mostly it's just two friends who have conversational chemistry talking about whatever enters the minds of relatively ADHD people. We hope you enjoy.
I'm all about saving money. We just realized the hard way that you can't always be motivated by that. But in most regards, I am often looking for how do you have a good time on the cheap? How do we keep this thing? How do we keep the cost down? Shopping on Craigslist instead of just going retail.
Yeah. I mean, there is a 2% chance that you'll die in the transaction and like a 98% chance. No, I'd say a 2% chance you'll die.
You think 2?
That might be exaggerating it.
What are you shopping for? That probably matters.
Oh, yeah.
I don't go alone most of the time. Most of the time. But peacocks. We were going to get some peacocks, and so I'm obviously not going alone.
As one does.
Yep, and we're driving through the backwoods of South Mississippi, and we finally come upon an underground bird breeding operation housed in a couple of campers in the woods.
Is this I'm not saying this is something I'm into, but if I wanted to go into a cockfighting arena, I'd probably.
I have also Craigslist shopped my way into one of those circles by accident.
Wow, that's awesome.
I was just trying to buy some peafowl on the up and up.
Yeah.
And the underground operation that we stumbled upon wasn't dangerous, actually. I mean, maybe for the birds, but for humans it was fine. It was just we got out of the car, and my daughter, who's actually a bird freak, she's like, do I hear an African gray? And the lady's like, yes, in fact. And she's like, we have this and we have this. And she's telling her a blue macaw and all these other things. And my daughter's like, it's slightly illegal, but it's still kind of cool. It's the inspiration she needs to go deep into the woods and breed exotic birds that she could then sell online. But we haven't yet had any major safety issues because we'll turn around. We've driven up, kind of seen what we were walking into and just been nope.
Yeah.
And
when the banjos play, you're like, nah, we're out.
Yeah. And I always, I say I don't go by myself.
Right.
My husband is driving, and he's usually driving. The time I drove us to go somewhere, we were just going for fun, and I accidentally drove up to a nudist beach.
Uh-huh.
But that doesn't happen when he's driving, but he's a trucker, or has been a trucker at different times, so he's just a little better at avoiding things like nudist beaches.
Yeah, how did that experience go for you?
Oh, we didn't get out of the car. I had children and everything else, and I'd already been informed that I was a mere 7.5 on a scale of 10, so it's not like I'm embracing the experience of nudist beach.
Let me tell you, I remember as a young man with all the hormones to go with it, and one of the greatest like fantasies of my life would have been to be in a nude beach with, hot boobies everywhere and all this stuff. Well, the guy that I was working for, this guy that cut trees, and he informed us that our next job was going to be in a nudist camp. I was inordinately excited about this whole business until I arrived at said nudist camp. Let me tell you, if you are a young man with lots of hormones and are imagining a nudist colony is going to be, the stuff of your fantasy, it is the opposite.
Yeah. I agree with this.
It's deeply hurtful.
Without having to go to a nudist colony to see this with my own eyes, just from watching British television, I would say that the safest way to desexualize our perceptions of the human body, to just unplug that myth and let it just deflate like a bounce house.
Yes, that's right.
Let somebody just see it in its natural form walking around.
Okay. But so that we don't disparage all nudist beaches, right? Because that wouldn't be fair, because we're a fair and balanced like team here, right? We want to explore all sides of this. I do have to say, I wandered into a very lovely nudist beach when I was older. I think it was in my 30s. Yeah, I was in my 30s in South Beach, Miami. And there, like, everybody does what it takes to look good. Like, you work out, you get plastic surgery, all the stuff that God intends you to do.
That's right.
Yeah. And, of course, being brown, side note, automatically makes you look better. I don't know why that is. Like, when you're nearly naked or naked.
Tan skin is...
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, fat white is the least pleasant option. All the other colors, like, at the same amount of fat, looks just better. I don't know why that is.
And the risk of sunburn is a thing. So, it's just dangerous for the big white folks.
Yes.
All around.
I know. So, word of caution. But any which way, so I ended up in South Beach in a nude beach. And for the first... I'd say for the first 8 to 10 minutes, I was like, I've hit nirvana. Like, these girls were gorgeous. And of course, being a lot of Latino flavor, we weren't just big boobies. We had like the gorgeous rear ends to go with it too. Like, it wasn't, like
the total package nudist beach.
The total package nudist beach. It was like everything. It was Shangri-La. The funny thing is after 10 minutes, this is a weird thing with our brain. Our brains do this, but after about 10 minutes of seeing amazing boobies, it really does desexualize to a certain extent. And then it's like, you still notice like, wow, she's got really great titties, but they're not...
You can just be really objective about it. And
right. It stops being less sexual and more like art, is I guess the way I would describe it. It really does. Your brain switches off because there's just too many of them at that point. And yeah, that was sort of an interesting experience to me. I didn't expect my brain to sort of get numb to it. But, I think that's like, how like when you're sitting in a chair or anything, like your body stops reporting to you the nerves in like your legs, your back that are responding to what the chair feels like. It just doesn't give you that information anymore. Because why? Because it's just there.
Right.
I think that's what happens. It's just sort of, you desensitize.
It's maybe a healthier approach just to overexpose children at a certain point to the things, so that we don't give them the opportunity to create dysfunction later on whenever they are finally exposed to it.
They don't fetishize it so much. Yeah.
No need for Rumspringa. We're just going to bring you up with overexposure.
That's right.
British television.
Telling you, yeah. They have a British television also, I noticed, has less of they don't freak out over cussing as much, which I'm a big fan of cussing. I want to be fair. I want to be conscious of our American listeners, but yeah, I've noticed that like it feels like the English on public television are a little bit more like lenient on quote unquote swear words, whereas we tend to be more uptight about that in the good old US of A.
The things that we choose to be offended about,
yes, I agree,
in the United States is really strange. Like the fact that a lot of people don't have health care, or that our education costs tons and tons of money, not so offensive.
No.
Cuss words
Very bad.
clutch my pearls.
Yes.
And then you go to Europe where it's like universal health care, access to higher education for free, in whatever words, it's
Yeah.
it's
It is
different what offends.
Yeah.
It's
To each his own.
yeah.
Yep.
Hello, lovely friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And it would mean the world if you would tell other people about this podcast and maybe even spam your social media accounts with just how much you're enjoying it. If you are, of course. Also, commenting and rating us on whatever platform you're downloading or streaming from is incredibly helpful to a little startup podcast like this one. On the other hand, if you are dissatisfied with your listening experience, please leave all of that hate on someone else's podcast. Just maybe to confuse them a little bit, right? But most of all, we hope you keep looking up and looking for the sunny side of life.